I used it to hack my own brain, to make me think, how does a daytime talk show or television get out their content all the time? Made me think like a media company.
This is Beyond Influential, with Brittany Crystal. Join Brittany as she chats with today's thought leaders about the power of influence, how it's developed, and how they get us to consume both on and offline. Here's your host, Brittany Crystal.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Beyond Influential. I'm truly excited today to welcome Roberto Blake to the show. Roberto is a YouTuber, creative entrepreneur, educator, and public speaker. Roberto's YouTube channel has over 275,000 subs and counting. I've been really looking forward to this episode because I know YouTube is often a confusing place for a lot of people who are looking to get started or really grow their audience. Welcome to the show, Roberto.
Thanks so much for having me, Brittany.
Of course. I don't want to spoil it. Can you tell the audience a little bit about your background and how you got started on YouTube?
I came from the world of creative services, marketing, advertising, all those things. I've been doing so many things throughout my life. I was a photographer, a graphic designer, a marketing manager, and YouTube let me throw all of my skills as a creative person, as an entrepreneur, at just like one platform, full steam ahead. And I never came here to be a big YouTuber. I never came here to get this bad boy, silver play button. I didn't come here for this. I came here for the ability to share my skills, and the thing that I love, art and creativity, has always been passed down and handed down either through artisans guilds or from master to apprentice for thousands of years. And I've always been very passionate about it. I've always, whenever I find out something new, I can't wait to share it with friends and family and tell them how to do the thing too. And for me, the traditional education kind of failed me in so many ways, but I had a handful of people who could really get me excited about something, and that made me learn some of the best skills and tradecraft that I have. So I wanted to give that to other people because it was something that I feel very fortunate, very blessed to have been given to me. And so when you feel something like that, you need an outlet for it. You can't bottle it up, Brittany. You just have to do something. And YouTube was a place where people could just go, and if they have something to put out into the world, whether it's how they think or feel today or something they want to teach, there's not a gatekeeper. There's nobody to tell you, well, no, you can't do that. You can do all these things that people would otherwise say no to, and find the people who will say yes. So I came to YouTube doing Photoshop and video editing and photography tutorials. I found out that people liked my personality. I started sharing about my journey, my struggles as a creative person with anxiety, depression, ADHD, and found that there were people who wanted education, but they also wanted motivation. They wanted encouragement. They wanted help, and they wanted to not feel alone. And I felt all those things. So, that's what my journeys looked like.
So when did you first find YouTube? When did you first start putting content online? Were you an entrepreneur yet, or had you left the corporate world yet?
It was like a combination of things. I was doing some contract work by the time I started creating content. I say that I became a YouTuber when I feel I made a commitment, and I didn't make a commitment until July, August 2013 is when I would say I became a YouTuber. I had my account since 2009. I think everyone did, but I had other accounts before that. You needed it to comment on things. I found YouTube in late 2005. I was in my friend Malcolm's house, and me and the guys, we were sitting there and we were watching goofy videos on the internet. There weren't YouTubers yet. We were watching, YouTube was a lot of old Super Bowl commercials and a lot of Too Hot for TV stuff. And we were watching, was it Terrible Terry Tate, Office Linebacker?
I remember that.
Yeah. You kill the Joe, you make some more. Yeah, it was hilarious. It was all these things. It's so we were watching that, and the Super Bowl commercials and all those things. It's funny because today people say, I didn't come to YouTube to watch ads. I'm like, guys, that's literally in 2005, 2006, all anyone came to YouTube to do was watch ads, the Doritos commercials. So that's why I discovered YouTube. I didn't get into being a YouTube watcher and viewer really until around the time Freddie Wong was big on YouTube. Him and his friend Brandon and some other people were doing these really well produced but straightforward action short videos once or twice, once a week or twice a month, and it was really cool. And I was into special effects at the time, And so we were watching that. I was trying to encourage my friends to do that we could maybe do an animation and production company. And that didn't work out. So I was like, eh. And then I didn't really revisit YouTube until maybe like 2012, 2013, dabbling with the idea of teaching people skills while growing my business, because I could demonstrate that I had knowledge to show myself as a subject matter expert, use it to grow my creative freelance business. At the time, I hadn't focused on marketing yet. I was going to do creative services in terms of branding and visual design. But then I realized how much I was already selling content strategy and social media strategy to my existing design and branding clients. And I was like, no, I need to flip that. And then I need to outsource the design stuff. It takes up so much time. And there are people who are even a little better than me. And I'd rather be a creative director, like when I managed an art department in corporate, or like when I was over people, I could outline something, I could give guidance, and I could be the visionary, and I could also do the client services and handle the client, babysit the client if need be, keep them happy, and let people do the hands-on stuff. And I think of the strategy and execution, where I feel like creatively is a pair of hands, whether it's as a photographer or designer. Like I might be B rank there, like I'm above average, I'm good, and I could put in work and effort and go to A rank, right? But it's not like what Gary would say, like if you're a C or a D or something, just like screw it, give that to somebody else. It's like, no, I was like a solid B if I'm even half trying. I could roll out of bed and be a C plus. So if I put in effort, I can be an A. But when it comes to strategy, I roll out of bed in A. So like, let me go ahead and focus on that, play to my overwhelming disproportionate strength. And ironically, the thing I can charge the most money for the least amount of time, because of how specialized it is, right? So I got into YouTube, was doing weekly Photoshop tutorials. It was Photoshop Thursdays, which means there's pretty much a guarantee that it was coming out late on Friday. So that's how I got into YouTube.
So did you have an ideal audience then when you started, and how has that changed now? Because you started with a main message, and it seems like you've stayed pretty consistent with your main message to now.
It's because in life, I'm informed by a philosophy that saved me from my depression and from my anxiety. Corporate life was very hard on me, and I think it's hard on most creatives, and that's why I advocate for them and I fight for them, and I want to change and disrupt creative services culture in the organizations we have now. But I want to encourage a new generation of entrepreneurs to build new culture from the ground up, understanding and being empathetic to these issues, because like a lot of people are predisposed to anxiety and depression, but creatives overwhelmingly as a population are predisposed to it because our brain chemistry is just so different, and in the way that we process information in abstracts. But the issue and the problem is, and you know this, Brittany, coming from corporate world, like corporate favors sameness, right?
Yes.
And like being modular and templated, and everyone starts a ruckus if they feel for one moment that anyone is being treated special or differently, right?
That's very correct.
If you treat creatives the same as you treat every other employee, you might as well have not bothered to hire them. Like, that's just the reality. You need free range creatives. They need some level of autonomy, and they can't be beholden to the same schedule, because creativity does not have a 9 to 5 clock associated with it. It has its peaks and it has its valleys, and you need room to explore. And yes, you need deadlines and you need some level of structure, but you need what I call the fixed fluid model. You need some constraints, but they're loose and they're just enough. And you need the ability and the flexibility to be adaptive, because creativity and innovation is predicated on that. If you are too rigid, then you might as well have not bothered trying to innovate in the first place.
I actually think that's true for people who aren't just pure creatives. Like for my personality personally, I need autonomy, and I am more creative. Like we were talking before, I probably come from, I'm not a pure creative, but I need the creative side to be fulfilled. So in order for me to actually put time into a creative strategy for somebody, I do need flexibility. I love a deadline. It's like, okay, I know how long I have, but yeah, just let me do it on my own pace when I know how, and I'll just get it done.
I make this joke. It's the least politically correct joke in the world, but and everything like that. It's like, you know what? Like, there's some things you just put foot soldiers in front of, but there's things that you just go out and you get yourself a mercenary, you get yourself an assassin, you point them at a thing and it's gone. Okay. Creatives are kind of like that. Like creatives are, that's where, that's actually where the term freelancer came from, right?
I did not know that, actually.
Freelancer came from the word hire lance. Freelance meaning you had autonomy. You weren't beholden to fealty, to a flag, to a country, to a nation. You were somebody who was a warrior that was at the disposal of whoever the highest bidder is, i.e. a hire lance, a freelancer. So that's where like the term comes from. It came from like actual mercenary warriors, people who were not beholden by the codes of chivalry or knighthood or loyalty or to one house or the other. That's like, yeah, I just hire a guy to just do this. It doesn't matter. And like, he doesn't have to play by rules. And the thing is, you don't tell that person but so many parameters. You just know that I gave you a job to get done and I don't care how you do it. I actually don't want to know the details. Like that's how it gets handled. And the thing is, on some level, some of your creatives need to be that. There are others that maybe that's not the right thing. Fine. But you have to be willing to entertain that and to know that. The thing is, corporate really encourages, like we said, sameness, and there's reasons for it, and I'm not knocking it. There's reasons for it, but it's like success isn't one size fits all. Treating it that way is a mistake.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've talked about self-awareness kind of before this call. Self-awareness is so important. And I know that sounds like such a Gary thing to talk about, but there's a reason that he talks about it all the time, because you need to know how you succeed best. If you don't succeed best going 9 to 5 and producing during that amount of time and having, a certain amount of red tape, you're not going to be successful in that environment. So
for YouTube creators, they have this whole thing where they're hung up on the reason that they're not going to be successful is the algorithm or the saturation or what other people are doing. The real reason is a lack of self-awareness, Britt. It's like the lack of self-awareness is why they're not successful, because if you don't know who you are, how do you expect anybody to trust you? How do you expect anybody to fall in love with you? How do you expect anybody to spend time on you when you don't even know who you are?
So we're going to get to that fun part. But so you're putting out this content. Was there a particular moment where you either experienced huge growth, or was it slow and steady over time?
Slow and steady, but it was accumulation of the stack, because this is a practical logistics thing. Coming from corporate, like I believe, and I've been using the thesis of business in YouTube from the beginning and the thesis of retail. Every individual video is its own product. Every product has the ability to convert on its own power. The more product and inventory you have, and this is digital product with unlimited distribution, theoretically, that's wildly scalable, meaning that the more things that I do, especially if they're similar, the more things I do to fill out a playlist, the more things I do to fill out a topic or a niche, to take ownership of that, then I have more inventory and product on that thing than someone else, which means I have infinite shots, whereas they might have just taken the one. And so they might have gotten one, and it might have landed, and it might have gotten so many views. But YouTube doesn't care just about views. YouTube cares about and trades in watch time. YouTube does what Gary says. YouTube day trades in attention. YouTube has outrightly said the most important variable for them is watch time, but it's more than that. It's also a growth hacking thing that we know of called sessions from the world of the web, of like, if I get more people to start watching YouTube and I keep them on YouTube longer, even if it's not my video, YouTube rewards my channel with more authority whenever I make any video on any topic that I have a reasonable amount of leverage with. So by doing that, and by also, in my case, a lot of people criticize me about my view to subscriber ratio, where I do underperform for a channel of my size on views, and I outperform channels twice as big as me on watch time and retentions, sometimes by as much as 3 to 20 times. And I have actual data where I've seen that. So I play the game of focusing on that attention, focusing on engagement. You get a bunch of views. I've seen videos that have 500,000 views get less comments than a video I do that has 5 to 10,000 views. I've actually seen that. And I can actually even bring up screenshots of something like that. And so that's where I know I'm winning. Like even in Instagram, I do the same thing. I'll see somebody that has 60, 80,000 followers on Instagram and will have the same 30 comments that I do. Or when I get a really good, hit a real nerve, I get 75, 80 comments. And I reply to almost everybody, or at least heart everybody back. And I'll see somebody with literally 10 times the following, 5 to 20 times the amount of likes, and the same amount of comments or less. And so I'm playing the engagement and the attention game 110%.
Which is definitely the most important thing in social. I know, when big brands or big corporations look at social, a lot of the time they're looking purely at the number of followers. But I think people are starting to get smart about the fact that it's engagement.
I'm breaking them on that. I'm making an interesting play. A lot of people think I want to do an influencer marketing agency. What they don't realize is, I'll tell you this, I don't think I've ever done this publicly in a podcast before. I'm planning to hack, secretly influence and not so secretly influencing when influencer marketing standards come out. It's going to sound very much like what I've outlined, how to work with influencers, what influencers should charge and know in working with brands. It's going to all sound, when someone finally establishes something that looks like a standard for this, assuming I don't do it outright through my agency, that it's going to sound very familiar with this. And the thing is, I'm not even going to do an influencer agency, but what I'm doing is I keep saying, it's education. I'm going to be reteaching and retraining the brands. And I'm already working on this with some people and with their brands and influencing some of their policy for influencer marketing. And I'm actually training and teaching and grooming influencers to approach brand strategy and integration in a completely different way than the way they've been doing it. And so it's re-education, and that's disruption, because everyone wants to do an influencer agency today and everyone wants to do a social media agency today. I'm focusing on a strategy. Everyone wants to produce content for brands and everything. I'm focusing, and I'll tell you the secret of Create Awesome Media, I'm focusing on brand strategy and also content strategy, both for brands and creators, both, because it matters. I'm teaching creators how to make content that the brands can just license outright. Don't even worry about leveraging my following. I'm just a better producer and video editor than you, so just use me because it's cheaper, and I'll be talent. So it's better than paying union rates, right?
Influencers are still underpriced, even though it seems like, everyone's spending money and talking about influencers. There's still so much underpriced talent that's not being capitalized on.
It is. And being on the West Coast, that wait a minute, if I hire an influencer, I've got a director of photography, I've got an editor, and I've got the talent, all for one price. And I could tap into their audience too. I could use their social media augmentation. So I could use them just to produce content for me to release on my platform, but I can have it elevated by them and I can get traction on it faster too. I can jump the algorithm by mentioning them. And we can split and share our audience, and we can both siphon from, and then between you, if a brand and influencer work together, they can hack all these algorithms because they can drive that first hour of awareness that they need in that first 24 hours that every algorithm is predicated on. So they, there's a lot of growth hacking that can be done there, and it's cheap.
Yeah, people don't realize it. So let's go back. How did you make the jump to doing this full time?
Well, the thing is, a lot of people ask, are you a full-time YouTuber? And I'm like, and do you make a living off of YouTube? And I'm like, I always say, as pretentious as it sounds, I make somebody's living off of YouTube. I do much better than the median average salary in America, which is roughly about $44,000 a year. Between ad revenue and sponsors, I clear that easily. You throw affiliate marketing into the mix, and I kill that. I crush that outrightly. That's not even including, though, take Roberto Blake, the public speaker, and my fees there. Take Roberto Blake, the consultant there. My one-on-one coaching with the people who want to do that. My new thing, Awesome Creator Academy, where I have my mentoring, and then later I'm going to be releasing online courses. And I'm doing somebody's salary on those things individually. And I mean, there's other things I've got going on in the background as well. So it's been incremental, but I was able to make a full-time living as a freelancer. So it's always been, for me, just a matter of scale and getting more comfortable, buying more gear. That's what it's always been.
Yeah. So we talked about this a little bit before too, is that people don't realize how much work goes into social, just in general, how much work and time and energy and effort it is to branding yourself, to posting your content, to making your content. I know you don't have a typical day, but how do you, what is in quotes a typical day for you? How do you,
if I don't shoot in 4K, the thing that I do that people don't realize is I can put out between 20 to 30 YouTube videos, depending on how I go about it and depending on whether I'm traveling in a month, and only spend 30 to 40 hours for the month on that. Somebody's work week, I can put out YouTube content and probably my podcast, leveraging someone's work week spread out over the course of a month. And I can put out my podcast, articles, engage with my following in social media day in and day out, and still get out 20 to 30 good YouTube videos. Granted, a lot of my stuff is talking head, but even when I'm doing product reviews, you've seen that I cut B-roll into everything now. So it's still very streamlined unless I shoot in 4K, which then obviously it doubles the time on everything. But like for a 5-minute video, I shoot it in one take, and it maybe takes me 8 to 9 minutes to shoot a 5-minute video. If I'm doing a 15-minute video, that takes 25 to 30 minutes of shooting. My editing time on a video is usually only 2 to 3 times the actual output video length there. So you're looking at a range of 15 minutes to an hour and a half per video. And that's assuming it's not a speaking engagement, because if I do a speaking engagement, what I do is that takes almost no time to edit, because I'm just chopping off a little bit of the beginning and a little bit of the end and throwing an end card in there and rendering it, and I walk away for that, and that's it. When it comes to chopping up those speaking engagements, I hire that out now, so that I outsource, and that's chopped up. But then that one video that I had that was done in real time becomes 6 to 8 pieces of content that I can release spread out. And I'm doing more speaking, as you know, so there'll be more things like that. So my process, even with just a little tiny bit of outsourcing, which I'm going to do more of, it's just so streamlined. And I told you, I shoot back to back. So like, this is no secret. I actually did a whole speaking engagement about this. I'll shoot 5 or 6 videos in a row in an hour and a half. That's a week's worth of content shot in 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, and it's produced. The problem with most YouTubers is they shoot, they edit, they upload. Nope. I shoot, and that's that part of the day or part of the morning. I may edit that same day. I may not. I might spend that day working on thumbnails instead or something like that, knowing what my content is and doing that. I might spend it shooting shooting B-roll or photography, doing stuff on my product stand or whatever, and do that, right? Shoot B-roll as I go throughout my day and run errands with stuff that I can chop in with the phone if it's more of a vlog in nature. If I do a vlog with my Sony RX100, my creative thoughts vlogs where I talk directly to the audience about what I'm thinking or feeling, and it's less, in some cases it's less produced. In some cases it's B-roll and it still feels produced, but it's really not. It's easy because that's just narrative storytelling. That's drop this footage that's in context that speaks to what you think. I shot all the footage so I know what everything is. Doing everything myself means that I have a clear vision all the time. So it's easy. So the turnaround on a vlog, and I could do more of those if I had to in a week. From shooting to upload, I can turn around a vlog in 45 minutes to an hour easily. So that means that the talking head, I told you, teaching talking head, same thing. Every week I do a live stream, and now I'm limiting them firmly, instead of them being 3-hour live streams, to an hour and a half. That's turn on a button, show up for an hour. Oh, there's one of my best pieces of content. It's done. So there's like the process that I have for all this, and I developed it over years, is I streamlined everything to maximum efficiency with the content I do.
People think that, like, I just wanted to point out, this is not something that, you've been doing for a week and then you became super efficient and now you have a huge audience.
What made me the most efficient was going to daily content in YouTube, because you have no choice but to become efficient. I used it to hack my own brain, to make me think, how does a daytime talk show or television get out their content all the time? Made me think like a media company.
So that's how you stayed so consistent with your content. You started putting out daily videos.
Yeah. And then that made me think, well, you doing daily videos, if you shoot, edit, upload, that's a hassle. That's why that's why for the first 6 months, my Photoshop tutorials were always so late. And I was like, oh, this is stupid. Why don't I just shoot more and then I'll edit it later? And then that got smart. And then I was able to start, I can shoot more. I can hold 2 of these. And so if if I'm going to miss a day, I can just push the release button. I could have a backlog. So I started making a backlog. I'm currently out of backlog just because I haven't uploaded all the edited speaking engagement stuff that was chopped up yet, because I have chopped up speaking engagements. I have about 25 or 30 videos of chopped up speaking engagements that I could like render and release. It's just a matter of timing for some of those videos because I don't want certain things to feel repetitive. But I have a backlog of 20 to 30 videos where it's like, yep, here we go, because of this process. So
how much time then do you dedicate to content creation versus distribution and choosing which channels to distribute on? How are you doing your time that way?
I mean, for me, for distribution, I've streamlined that a little bit. Some of it has a little bit of automation behind it, just a little bit, nothing extravagant per se. Making content one way or another. I don't have anyone follow me around with a camera, Gary style, but I'm the guy following myself around with a camera or whatever. So I just, I do that intentionally. I do that thoughtfully, and I make enough of it to where I have like one day, even if I'm not going to use it today, I probably have a week's worth of stuff produced in one day just by living my life. Right. So I have that aspect of it. Distribution wise, because I built organic relationships, I can rely on other people on some level for distribution too, through my social platforms. So there's that. Once you have stuff saved in like Apple Notes or something like that, doing a copy and paste into Buffer and setting a few things up is relatively straightforward for some distribution. And I justify the robotics of automation by saying, if I don't have to manually tweet out a link, it gives me more time to reply to a human and do a video response to a human and say, hey, like, you know, blah, 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 like, how's it going? Or what did you get out of this? Or, hey, that's not what I meant. You're taking me out of context because, like I didn't get on camera when I tweeted that. So let me reframe it and like, let you hear my tone of voice while I'm saying this. And so I'm not a pretentious prick. Like, oh, I forgive you, Roberto. Yes, always forgiven. Thank you. Because text has no tone, right? Emojis don't get it done. So like, again, the way I spend like, you know, I'm not being around the bush. Like the way I do it to me is I found a day-to-day process that I could integrate with my actual life so that I don't have to worry about work-life balance. I use work-life integration to handle content, to handle engagement in social media. Engagement in social media isn't a chore or a to-do list or a task with me. Engagement in social media is how I learn and get smarter, how I show up for my friends, how I have the conversations that I want and need to have, how I get feedback and data, and how I get answers to my questions. So that's a day-to-day process to me that social media or no social media, business or no business, is valuable because social media, like Gary would say, isn't real. It's just how we communicate. We call being on a phone talking. This used to be some big leap of something for our grandparents and our great-grandparents, right? To us, this is normal. So to me, I normalized things that other people consider work and integrated them into my life and into my play and into the way that I communicate with people. I turned my Instagram into my way of doing a personal daily journal and diary while creating value for other people and motivating them. Yeah, that's why Instagram is easy to do for me now, whereas Instagram used to be a chore. To me, I look forward to going to Instagram and just talking about my feelings and getting stuff off my chest and being vulnerable.
So yeah, we talked a little bit even before the podcast too, that people don't want to do things when it feels like too much work, if it's not enjoyable. You know, people want to be YouTube stars, but then they don't want to sit and learn how to video edit or actually put in the time to learn how to do like tags and titles and thumbnails. And
everyone will type in how to grow on YouTube fast instead of how to edit video faster, which is like, that's stupid. That's lame. Or they'll sit there and they'll say, I want to be a YouTuber, but won't learn manual camera settings. They're like, can't I just put everything in auto? It's like, yeah, if you want your content to be garbage, yeah, you can put everything in auto, I guess.
So then let's talk about YouTube a little bit and maybe some content specific questions. What's the most important piece of advice that you give to someone who comes to you and says that they want to start a YouTube channel today?
Figure out what it sounds so Gary. God damn it.
I know, it creeps in for me all the time.
Figure out what you're good at and what you like, because if this is going to be Jake Paul every day, bro, I mean, he's so smart because like what he did was like, you don't have to I'm not the demo for his content. I'm not the biggest fan of his content. I'm the fan of his intelligence and how a lot of people think he's like stupid or whatever. He's really smart.
Like, I've heard he's very, 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 very smart.
So imagine from my point of view, what he did was, since he decided he wasn't going to college, was essentially with Team 10, he built his own frat house and then like became Van Wilder or Ferris Bueller on camera every day. It's the most brilliant thing you could do. Like if you're 20 something and you have the money and you could start a frat house and then just film it on camera and not have the hassle of going to class and going to college, it's brilliant because you literally are like getting MTV level views every day.
I was going to say, it's like the real world, but except you're not leaving it in the hands of other editors. Everybody in that house can edit video, or they outsource to other editors. So you're putting out exactly the message you want and nobody else is controlling it.
Yeah, but like you could literally like you could yearly use the thesis, and if you had the talent pool and like of these like a team like something like Team 10, you could literally replace like a certain era of MTV with that pretty easily. Like yeah, and not just even limited with YouTube. Between Instagram, Snapchat, and Musical.ly, you literally could do it. Like, and you would have ownership of everything, and you would be able to leverage the level of brand deals that you would like. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, I mean, so what I think about, like, to answer your question is like the advice that I give people is like, what are you good at? And what do you like doing? And what would you show up and do every day? If I literally, like, I tell them, all right, imagine for 1 minute that I'm a malevolent supernatural creature that can grant wishes, but I got a twisted sense of humor. What do you want to do for the next 100 years? And by the way, I might not be joking. And then when they get, are you? And I'm like, I don't know, am I? Like, and so we play that game. It's like, oh, do you want to play a game? It's like, no, pyramid head, no pinhead. I don't want to play. I don't want the puzzle. It's like, oh, here's the puzzle box. Oh, why? Like, you're one of the only people who probably gets that reference.
So what's the most asked question that you get about YouTube?
Everyone wants to know how to grow their audience. How do I blow up in YouTube? How do I go viral? Here's the funny story about that. I got 250,000 subscribers. I've never gone viral. I've never had a video. Like the closest video I had to a video that blew up is not one that I could leverage and recycle and rehash. I had a Microsoft Surface Surface Studio product review that I did because I was at Adobe Max and I was like, no one's going to make a review here. No one here's a YouTuber. I'm like, aha, I can beat the tech YouTubers because they can't get their hands on this yet. So I beat a lot of the big tech YouTubers to doing a hands-on review in the real world with the Microsoft Surface and Studio and drawing on it. And like, in like a week that did like 100,000 views in like a week. That's not viral. That's not even close to viral, but it's the closest to a breakout video. Like everyone wants that because that's a breakout video for you in YouTube, no matter what your level is. If you can get that in a week, if you're not already at 1 million subscribers, right? So I couldn't do anything about that though, because I can't spam that type of content, and it's a tool that my creative audience can use and a new technology that they'd be excited about, but you can't talk about that over and over and over and over again. It won't work. So you have to, if you're going to do something that you like and that you enjoy, if the funnel of what you're doing is narrow enough, it becomes fairly easy and practical because all it takes is one breakout video to put you on people's radar and to get attention. And then if your backlog of content, all the content you've done up till now, matches that and is similar to that, and the audience would like that, then you will win. It's why our friend Sarah Dici won, is because like she was always like silver play button material. Like I want people to understand that the Gary shout out and the Casey shout out didn't make her. And she still got 150,000 more subscribers on her own merits and her own quality of content. And in the year since she got that attention, she literally 10x'd her game in terms of stepping up the quality of her content and what she could do. And she didn't sleep. A lot of people that got similar opportunities to her didn't bother to hustle, make connections, and didn't bother to learn. What impresses me about Sarah is she never stopped learning from people, and people who had already made it or had been bigger than her. When she got the opportunity, she asked them. I watched this happen. She even asked me, and she like the smartest questions and the smartest things. I watched her grow over a year. I watched her a year ago, me and her in November a year ago, were talking about 5 things, I think. And this is, you're going to laugh. Like, we talked about merch. We talked about newsletters. We talked about podcasting. We talked about Instagram and Instagram coming for Snapchat. So we talked about Yep. We talked about that. And we talked about diversifying content. So funny story. Why those 5 things, you laughed when I said that, because look at what's happened in the last year with Sarah and her content. right? Because she was planning it. She's been planning it for a year. Like you said, the work, the hustle. Things she's executing on now have been in the works for 6 and 8 and 9 months.
Yeah, Sarah, I mean, to go back to your point on virality, I was having this conversation with someone the other day. Virality is overrated if you can't maintain it and you can't capitalize on it. If it is just a shot in the dark, that doesn't help. If people come to your channel for something, the thing you go viral for needs to be what the other content kind of at least looks like, or in the same genre, the same topics. Otherwise,
or Lord forbid, what you want to be known for, because some people go viral and that's the worst thing to happen to them because it's like, oh, I became viral for doing that embarrassing thing and it's all I can do if I want to grow now, and I'm now that. But
again, your example, Sarah, Gary and Casey and those shout outs definitely helped give her some exposure, but she is such a hustler. And I'm not saying this just because I know her in person, but I am saying it because I do know her in person. That, sleepless nights, working, definitely putting out the videos every day, editing. She's in there doing all the technical things that people don't want to learn, don't want to do. She was
already a good editor. I've seen her step up her game with that. She does not play around. She always gets the fight for that 1% better.
And
that's what people won't do.
Work. Oh no, people don't want to do it.
What I see is most young people want to do is how can I do this with the least amount of effort possible? Can I just play video games and stream and have a personality, and that way I don't have to learn editing? Can I do that? Some people can do that, but to think that that's who you are, if that's not your talent, or to think you're entitled or special, or if someone's already doing that and they're already big, why do I need you? Why do I need you if I've already got that? What are you going to do that's different? And so I tell people my best advice is different is better than better. And don't worry about fast. Everyone's so impatient. I'm like, you have no expectations that if you play basketball for one summer that you're going to dunk on me, right? Because that's not going to happen. You're going to come to my racquetball court and you're going to take me on, get stomped. You're going to get stomped. That's all you're entitled to is pain and losing and sweat right now because you have not done this. All you're entitled to is your sides killing you. Your kidneys water for the love of God.
There's still a disrespect for social in that way, where people think it's taking pictures, taking a nice looking flat lay, or doing, I don't know, just, taking a live video of your glowing personality. And that's all you need to do to become famous.
The entitlement is ridiculous. The entitlement is ridiculous. And there's also this myth that if you get a shout out or if you get this many subscribers, then people will care because they'll take you seriously. It's like when you see a video in social media, when someone shares a video to you, you don't see someone's subscriber count, right? All you see is a good title and thumbnail, right?
Yep.
That's real. We don't see the subscriber count. And then the thing is, the only people who are only going to watch you because of your subscriber count are tweens and kids under 14 that the only names they know are big names anyway. And that's the most fickle audience in the world. So why even worry about it?
So what are the top mistakes you see people doing on YouTube?
A lack of consistency, a lack of vision, a lack of focus. And by lack of vision, I mean, they don't know. I'm not saying you have to niche because I didn't niche. And the thing is that somewhat is to my detriment. And I'll explain, I'll tell you, all right, let's walk backwards. I'll tell you everything I'm doing currently wrong on YouTube, but why?
Okay.
I don't have a narrow focused niche on YouTube, which means that even if I have a video that lands, I can't spam that topic in that video and blow up, and because it's not fitting enough of a similar pattern and similar theme. If you do that, you can be more successful. For example, and you have to get specific. You can't be generic. i.e., if you're going to be a gamer, don't just be a gamer. Be a retro gamer. Be a trick shotter. Be a glitch gamer where you find glitch. Be someone who does mods. Be someone who finds hacks. You be specific value. Specific value, unique value is important. Be someone like the completionist, the person who's I will complete whatever game I play to 100%. I'll unlock everything. I'll do everything. And that's the unique value because no one's that disciplined or dedicated or obsessed. Right? So that's the value. That's very specific. If you're going to do beauty and fashion and things like that, then you need some overarching story arc of either a why this matters to you and everything like that, or a style or a thing that you're capitalizing on, and a group of people that you're okay, for the people who like this, that's what, same thing with DIY or whatever. If you're going to be a tech reviewer, the example would be, be a mobile tech reviewer. Your thing is going to be smartphones and travel style cameras and laptops and things of that nature and headphones because you're mobile. Everything is about mobile. And so that's your strong suit. That's your theme. And that's where your focus lies. So that focus is important because it means your audience has expectations to be met. It means that you know what content you're going to make and what matters, and you don't have to guess. And it also means that all of your content reinforces everything. A high tide raises all ships. If something does go big or gets viral, or you're the first one to put it out, or you have a dissenting view, that means that there's a chance people watch all your other content. It also means you also know who's in alignment with you, so you can watch for patterns and trends. You can network very easily because you know what to fit, you know what's not. So the reason I didn't do that, I have a higher arching philosophy and mission that drives my content, because my content is educational and inspiring in nature, but has entertainment to make it not boring, to like get people excited about it. And it's supposed to be a service and a value. I could do things that I know the majority of my audience would watch, but then I'm not helping those 3,000 people that nobody wants to help because they're not a big enough audience to be bothered to serve. And that was what bothers me. No one helps the misfits. So I do things that hurt my channel in favor of building long-term one-to-one loyalty with just a few thousand people. And I do it over and over again in different categories and different genres and different things that have the overarching theme of you're a creative person, but maybe you're weak on technology. You're a creative person, but maybe you're weak on motivation or discipline. You're a creative person, maybe you need more productivity. You're a creative person, maybe you want to be entrepreneurial, maybe you want to get out of the rat race. Or the other way, you're an entrepreneur, you work with creative people and you don't get them yet. You're an entrepreneur, you don't understand this technology that you know your business relies on, and you don't want to be vulnerable to that any longer. You're an entrepreneur and you don't know what to buy to solve your problem. You're an entrepreneur and you don't know how to work with influencers, or how to work within the context of social media, or how to tell your personal brand story. So again, it's a matter of I identified the people that I wanted to serve and the problems that I wanted to solve. And that means I have to go places that other people won't go just because they see a lack of advantage. I go there because I see an opportunity to disrupt and an opportunity to serve. So I do a YouTube mistake because I'm playing the long game and the hard road. It'd be easier to go the other way. And the thing is, when you're getting started, maybe you should, because I didn't start. I started with what I knew best. I started with Photoshop and video editing and photography because they're all very related and because it's what I knew the best. And I got that right first. And then I expanded the scope and the gamut of what I was doing to fit with my personality and to play to my strengths. Because the other thing people don't do, they chase what's popular, Brittany, instead of chasing what's inside of them. Instead of digging deep on what's inside of them, they chase something out in the ether. They're chasing this unicorn thing of this will go viral, this will go big, or this is what people pay attention to. Instead of digging deep inside themselves, they're seeking something outside. It's like what they said in Star Wars, the belonging you seek isn't behind you, it's right in front of you. They're chasing what they think people want, instead of realizing that they should be looking inside of themselves and realizing that they can attract the people who will accept them as they are and for what their talent and skill and interest is. So guess what? My friend, Geekdom 101, is a hardcore anime fan. He is a hardcore, he's a grown man, wife and kids, but he loves and grew up with Dragon Ball. And so he does the new episodes of Dragon Ball. And here's the thing. He's grown a community. He was behind me. He surpassed me. He has 350,000 subscribers and makes considerable money. He makes 5 figures a month, solid 5 figures a month, ridiculous money, because he has a community that's passionate about the same things he's passionate about and grew up with the show or are growing up with the show now and loves it and loves that he relates to them. And he's able to make a living beyond and surpassing what he made in corporate before, what his wife makes in corporate now. He could literally probably retire both of them at this point. And guess what? If he was embarrassed to be an anime nerd, if he was embarrassed because some stupid MMA boxer thinks that some MMA fighter thinks anyone who if you're over 15 and you watch anime or Dragon Ball and everything like that, you're a loser and no woman will ever respect you. It's well, this guy's wife and kids respect the fact that he makes really good money and is able to, if they needed to provide, and that he could retire both of them and they could just be a family all day, every day, because he's not embarrassed to be a nerd about the thing that he loves and that he's passionate about. So I tell people, like, it sounds like the worst, like, hokey truism in the world, but being yourself is real. It matters because now you have access to the 7 point whatever billion people on the planet. And how much market share of that do you need to find your people?
Yeah, and you actually didn't, I mean, obviously you didn't make those mistakes. You started with an area and then you knew you were great at that. Again, the self-awareness component. And then you grew out from there to things that you also enjoy and that are other aspects of that personality.
Yeah.
Like the creative entrepreneur stuff comes out of, the Photoshop and the work that you were doing, the strategy. So
it was an evolution. Exactly.
That's the thing, is you can start with your niche and generalize instead of doing what the mistake that other people are doing, which is let's go for instant virality. Like, let's do a call imitation.
Exactly. The thing is, in my case, I wouldn't even say generalize so much as like I went broad, but I am specific because, again, creative entrepreneurship is a specific segment of the population. So the thing is, I just didn't narrow niche. When people say niche, they aren't they're generalizing that because they're not like, gaming is a niche, retro gaming, RPG gaming, like arcade gaming, that gets narrow. That's not gaming anymore. That gets narrow. Handheld gaming, mobile gaming, that gets narrow and narrower and narrower and narrower, right? So that's like, that's different. And there's ways to go, but you could also then be narrow but be collectivist, or you can be narrow but segmented. And the thing is, it's just you have to decide. It's business is understanding like, how many verticals do you want? My recommendation, if there's someone who's a YouTuber who's like older enough or savvy enough to understand this the way you and I do, is that pick 2 to 3 verticals. Like, start with a focus on maybe one, but always tease the other 2. And then as you acclimate, expand into those. And then that becomes like, you start with doing a Monday show and you get Mondays right for like 3 to 6 months. And then you expand and you go to the Tuesday show. And the Tuesday show is a little different than the Monday show, but it relates to the same type of people, but it's an extension of that and it's something else. And then you go to your Friday show, and then you have your 3 verticals. You got your Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and this is what it is. And people know, and you still, as long as you're playing the 80-20 rule of do 80% of the people like the Monday show, like the Wednesday show, like that's what you figure out. And that's how you make that work. And so that's the kind of thing that I would tell people if they're going to do anything, do. The other thing I would say is like, stop underestimating. People spend 4 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours editing a video, and then they spend 5 minutes on a thumbnail. That's got to stop. That's why I think they should do Instagram, because they'll learn to appreciate visual branding.
Actually, what you were saying, I just wanted to backtrack. What you were saying about the, like start with one show on Monday and then, kind of a different take on it on Tuesday. That holds true for Instagram. That holds true for every social platform. A lot of people come in and they're like, I want to be a lifestyle influencer, a travel influencer, an entrepreneurial influencer, and they give you a beauty influencer. They give you a whole list. And it's like, start with one, and then you have these other things that if you're very passionate about, you can start integrating them and see how people react. But you don't start with the 10 things. Otherwise, people don't know what to come to you for. You start smaller, and then you can we get that people are multidimensional. Everyone knows that. We know you're not just about one thing, but you need to ease people into it. People need to fall in love with a few aspects of you before you give them everything, just like in real life.
Yeah. And you've seen my YouTube channel. You saw that what I did to get people used to the idea is I used visual branding to help make it easy to sort my stuff. I used color blocking. I used green for creativity and graphic design and art stuff, blue for tech, purple for like the stuff that's camera and video related, red for YouTube. Like, I did color blocking to help with the visual branding aspect of people knowing what to expect in a video. And what to expect from a playlist of videos. And I got very structured about the playlist of my videos. And for 2 years, I was beholden to a schedule on the shows, but now I wanted more freedom away from that so that I can put out content. Because the thing is, it would mean sometimes sitting on content too long and it not being relevant. And I was like, that's a vulnerability. I need speed back on execution of when something's right. I can talk about it immediately. So to get that kind of speed back once I realized it was a vulnerability, I nixed the schedule. Plus, I had so much content and so much reach. And at that point, I've established myself that I was like, I'll be forgiving for that. And now people won't skip days because they'll like, I'm going to miss something if I skip today. So I reversed it. I pivoted.
So let's talk about influence for a second, because I want to make sure I get this in. When was the first time you realized you were able to influence others and your audience?
It was way pre YouTube. I realized I could influence people at about 12 years old whenever I'd walk into Walmart and start selling stuff out of the tech aisle.
Everyone I've talked to so far has realized at an early age and kind of has that, like, I was selling something at generally teenage or even preteen years.
In a lot of ways, I was also like, even before that, I think I was influencing the kids around me with regard to video games and also with regard to pop culture. Like there was things with that. Like when I was a kid, I used to play like Magic the Gathering. I learned that in Boy Scouts. And like after a while, I became so good at it because of how much strategy and resource management it is that I became like the influencer wherever I was, whatever school I was in around like that. I became like the guy. I became like the school like Magic the Gathering champion like all the time. And then when Pokemon came out, it was like I was the I was the guy. I was like, it's like, oh yeah, that's the champ there. So like, but so I mean, it was just like whenever I get into something that I'm passionate about, I get good at it and I like try to master. Like I'm always about self-discipline and mastery of self. So I become like neurotic or obsessive over something. When I do something, I want to get good at it and I want to get fast at it.
So what do you think then is the most important element of influence?
I would say that if you're going to become an influencer, you have to understand the responsibility that you have to the people that you influence. And that's the danger of it. It's like, I love YouTube channel Charisma on Command, and it talks about how charisma can be used negatively and harmfully. And we see a lot of that today, that people who have a lot of influence, people have a lot of charisma that have a following, sometimes they leverage it in toxic ways. Sometimes they feign ignorance too, when they pretend that they're just someone stating an opinion, when in reality what they're doing is they're galvanizing people to action. They're motivating people to action in a negative way when they direct that opinion, or when it's not, when you're an influencer and you make a personal attack against someone, it's not you making a personal attack by yourself anymore. Everyone who follows you, there's a good swath of them that will follow your lead. And so you're responsible for how you communicate and how you conduct yourself in the real world, because then it's not just you, it's everybody. Like, I mean, if we went back to the olden days, right? And you were a noble, and you had like people who were trying to curry favor with you, and you voiced like you were just making a joke or an off-color remark, and you voiced some like displeasure with somebody, or you made a joke that you thought somebody was like eyeing your girl or something like that. People who want to curry favor with you might go out and like kill that guy, right? Like that was a real thing. So there was a point where people learned to not be careless with their words, because they realized, well, if I have words and I have power over people, people will take that seriously. I can't be cavalier or irresponsible with the things that I say, right? And so I think that I think one of the most important lessons I learned about influence ever, and it didn't take a negative thing happening for me to realize this. I realized it with mob mentality. I grew up, I was the nerd. So like there were people who like, if they said one thing, then it was people attacking me, right? So I learned from being on the other side of that, of like, hey, when you do something or you say something, there are people who throw out disclaimers or, hey, don't go after so-and-so and everything like that. And when people see or hear that, they're like, yeah, I got you, wink, like, or yeah, wink, you're doing or yeah, they had to say that or whatever. And like, and some of those people, they don't mean anything by it. Some of those people are like well-intentioned. I'm not naming any names or calling one out, but there are YouTubers that I see do that. And the thing is, it's because they live in this bubble where sometimes, because you sit in a room by yourself with a camera more often than not, or you're out in the world and you're by yourself or with your friends and you're vlogging, you think of yourself. I still think of myself as the same person who got their butt kicked at the bus stop. Like whenever I look in the mirror, I still see that same nerd. I still see the same person, like, like I still see the same person that I've always been. I see the growth, I see the evolution, but like, I don't see my subscriber count when I look in the mirror, right? I don't see my Instagram or Twitter following when I look in the mirror. I don't see that this person with millions of whoever follows me and hangs on my every word. Like I don't see that when I look in the mirror. When I look in the mirror, I just see the same dork that loves Star Wars and has bobbleheads on his desk and everything like that. I still see the same guy who would take a B on a test just so that he could get 30 more minutes of drawing and doodling in. Like, I still see that. And because when we as YouTubers, we're in that bubble of our own mind, if we think we're a regular person, we don't account sometimes for the weight that our words, our decisions, like I've seen people who have like destroyed brands with like a cavalier comment. Like I've seen people who have ruined others' careers or reputations with a cavalier remark or comment, or caused them to emotional distress because then that person became a victim of like cyberbullying or even outright real world stalking. Sometimes it's bad. And I think that the problem is because of the lack of maturity in the YouTube ecosystem, because of how many people come here at 20, 25 and then become rich and famous without ever having to go through, they work hard, but they don't have to go through the grueling long-term traditional process of all of that, and people grooming them and like beating certain things into them and holding them accountable and holding them to a schedule, or keeping them on message that they just do things the same way they would have done it 5 years ago when no one was paying attention. And the problem is that people are paying attention and people are emulating them. People are hanging on their every word. People are making commitments based on what they do, of time, of money, of their philosophy. Like, and it matters. Like, how many people started a business because Gary opened his mouth? How many people probably talked themselves off the ledge because Gary opened his mouth? How many people are alive today because Tony Robbins opened his mouth? And then when I see someone that's 16 through 26 be irresponsible with their words when they have the same platform as people who worked 30 years to have that level of influence, and they got it in 3 and haven't figured out who they are yet, like, and how much what they do matters to people yet, that's terrifying to me.
So do you think that there's a way, I've noticed that the YouTube commenters, just in general, YouTube comments are some of the nastiest places on the internet. Is there anything that you think YouTube can do or do better to kind of clean up that environment or make it a safer space without censoring people?
They've, for one thing, as a company, they kind of have the right to do like curation at their own discretion. So like, I know a lot of people get sensitive about that. And a lot of people, like, when you say something like that, they think you're an enemy of free speech. But like, based on the way that the free market works, and I'm a capitalist, like, you know, I'm very capitalistic as an entrepreneur. The way the free market works is that corporations aren't necessarily beholden to the same restrictions when it comes to that the government is, and for good reason. The government should not be able to restrict freedom of speech, should not punish freedom of religion, the expressions of ideas, public assembly, or put restrictions on what the press is allowed to report on for the public good. That's what being a friend of free speech in the First Amendment looks like. Thinking that you should be able to say whatever you want while utilizing someone's bandwidth and server resources that you aren't paying for, or even when you are paying for it, that you think you should have the ability to violate the terms of service that you agreed to as a legally binding contract when you hit yes, that's entitlement of the worst kind. So no, they should be able to. But as far as YouTube, they've given us tools to deal with the comment section. I have the N-word and every other racial slur, and because I have female friends that come on the channel, I've had to even put boobs into my filter to say, do not allow this to be a publicly available content, send it straight to spam, or hold it in moderation for my approval. And so as long as people are being polite and productive, then my comments, they are a welcome place for them. But if they're going off the reservation, then they end up in the filter, and then I can either take the time to look at it and say, oh yeah, no, that's fine, and approve at my discretion. I don't pretend that it's like my YouTube comment section ain't a democracy. You don't get free speech there. It's a benevolent dictatorship, and if you piss me off enough, it'll stop being benevolent real bloody quickly, and you'll see Emperor Roberto go to the dark side of the Force real quickly. Red lightsaber and all. No hesitation. And I don't care who doesn't like it. You don't like it, get out. Like, you come to one of my speaking engagements and you start heckling somebody. I'm on a panel. You start bullying someone on the panel. I'm going to tell security myself. It's like, yeah, throw the bum out. They're disrupting everybody else's thing. And it's like their free speech, their freedom of expression should not come at the expense of the experience of the other 2,000 people in the room. Get the hell out. I don't play. I do not play. They're lucky that we do have laws in this country and everything. Because here's the thing. When I grew up, freedom of speech wasn't freedom of consequences. When I grew up, you could say whatever you want to someone at the bus stop, and they'll punch you in the freaking mouth for it too. And like, yeah, you had freedom of speech. Now, granted, legally that's wrong and that's assault, and I get that. I'm not saying anyone should advocate for that or violence. I'm just telling you, that's the America I grew up in. I grew up in an America where freedom of speech often resulted in a fat lip, and so people learned to keep a civil tongue in their mouth. That's why we had politeness. When I grew up, people want to talk about political correctness. When I grew up, if you thought you had freedom of speech as a kid, you could try it and then you'd get slapped. If you're lucky, that's all you'd get. Like that's how I grew up in a military family. Like, you know, it was kind of strict. It's like, you'd be lucky. Like if you know, it's like, you know, and you're not going to tell me that growing up in a military household that we weren't fans of free speech and the First Amendment, but free speech sometimes meant we go upside your head. You know, that's how we roll. It's like you keep it classy, you hold the line, you treat people with respect, you treat people with fairness, and you don't embarrass your family because there are consequences. You know, so but we don't do that anymore. We apparently, like, you know, we don't believe in that. Freedom of speech and social media means I should be able to do whatever I want with no consequences and no accountability. So here's the answer to that. Like, the YouTube comment section is my fault because I haven't released the tutorial on how everyone can filter their comment sections and never have to deal with this garbage anymore. So tutorial coming soon.
Awesome. And so you mentioned Gary and you mentioned Tony Robbins. Who in the space do you follow, do you look up to, and do you look to for their influence?
A lot more lately, even than I used to. I have a tremendous, overwhelming respect for Philip DeFranco and what he's doing and what he's built. I believe that we need a place where we can have a free discussion of ideas and disagree civilly. And I love that that's what he brings to the table. And I love that in many ways he has more journalistic integrity than mainstream media, regardless of whether you're on the left or the right. And I really appreciate what he's doing and what he's trying to do, and it's so important. And I've watched his growth as a creator. You know, I watched him like throw things out of his format, like Lovely Lady of the Day, to get more serious, and he wondered whether that would hurt his views, and it grew his views. He threw out the Friday Xbox giveaways on the community show. His views and subscribers didn't go down. It exponentially grew. And I love that sets an example to me of watch the evolution of this creator. Watch someone who says that in his 20s when he was on his platform, he feels like he was kind of a douche and that he owns that and he doesn't hide it and doesn't delete that content. He says, though, that stands as a testimonial. And if people want to take me out of context, like, come at me, I can give the context. Like, but he doesn't hide from who he was. He owns it, and he owns the evolution of his growth too. And he brings something very unique to the space that I think is needed. And I want more people to be influenced by that. And I want more people to, instead of authoritatively pushing their view of events onto people, to advocate for presenting the information, the facts, interjecting and saying, now here's my opinion separated from those facts and why I believe what I believe. And then what do you think? And having a real dialogue. I think too many creators are authoritative and dictate instead of have a dialogue. And I think that that's what we don't like about the mainstream or old traditional media. I don't like the word mainstream media. We just keep saying it, but like mainstream is dictated, as you know, by the numbers that something gets, the reach and the influence it has. And by that logic, Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube have been mainstream media for a long time. We get better numbers.
Oh,
outright.
100%.
Outright, overwhelmingly. So definitely better than print. So I don't like the word mainstream anymore. We've already supplanted mainstream with social, if you're talking about numbers and reach and influence and impact, and certainly it's starting to show up in the form of dollars. I think that colloquialism is wrong. I think you would have to say old or traditional
media, for sure.
And I think that has a ticking clock on it eventually, because like 50 years from now, what's traditional, right? Like, so I think that context matters. So I look to Phil for that. Someone I really admire in the tech space is a lot of the tech YouTubers, but I admire Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD, who has more influence in technology than the New York Times and then CNET by far. And I admire him because like he did this from the time he was a kid starting out. He did 100 videos to get his first 78 subscribers. That grind is real. He started by reviewing his mom's laptop. He wasn't wealthy. He reviewed his mom's laptop because he grew up watching Chris Pirillo, someone else I admire, somebody I'm good friends with, and that mentored him a little bit. And then he became like this huge tech YouTuber. And he also has a degree and background in business, Brittany. Most people don't realize that he got an MBA in business. And he only graduated a little while ago and now can focus on his channel. But he grew his channel to millions and was making a substantial income from his channel. And he did it mostly while he was in high school and college from his dorm, and built his empire literally from his bedroom and then from his dorm room before he bought his studio. So, I mean, that's someone I definitely respect and admire a lot. And then obviously I'm watching someone I think is going to go huge I'm watching our friend Sarah Dici and everything like that. Someone 10 years my junior that I respect and admire the hell out of her hustle, because she like in a very short period of time, in like about a 3-year period of hustle, she got up to like my level. And again, I didn't do YouTube nearly as long as her, but I'm talking even playing the game, like social media, because it's not just YouTube. I've watched her hustle every platform. I've watched her metagame Twitter for networking, relationships, and equity, and use it as the secret society that it really is, that we know about, and like watched her slide into people's DMs and like make stuff happen. I've watched her like go to conferences and really hustle that. I've watched her hustle the beginnings of a public speaking career. I've had people reach out to me wanting an intro to her to speak at social media conferences. I've watched her evolve as a video editor. I've watched her evolve even as a photographer. I've watched her like go heavy and deep engage with her audience the right way and do it organically. I've watched her take advantage of moments where something big happens to her the way that most people would not be clever enough to. And what's encouraging to me to see someone so young doing it so well is how humble she is about it, and how much she is open to the idea of continuing to learn. And the fact that I've seen people older than her get a big head with a lot less to brag about.
She's very special, and what she's doing, like you named a million things that she's doing, but also on Anchor, she capitalizes on, she's a first mover. She's a first mover. She
early adopter.
And she just gets in deep, and she does keep learning. And it's just something that I don't see her losing at all, because she's just a hustler. There's no other way around it.
She
doesn't wins.
Yeah. The people who do that, as Gary would say, the people who don't get romantic. Like the thing about me is like, primary example. Whereas most people, and the thing they should do, go back to like YouTube mistakes. Like when you figure out something works, do a bunch of it, right? I kind of don't do that sometimes. I still just keep playing the game. I keep putting my money back into the slot machines and keep playing. Because again, I'm learning, I'm hacking. It's why the algorithm never bothers me, is because I keep playing it. I keep going back in. I don't get discouraged, and I don't sit there and I don't milk something when it went, oh, that went big, milk it. I could. I don't, because I want to keep the learning curve, because I want to keep always having the option to play, and I will never get attached to the numbers. Because as far as I'm concerned, why get attached to the numbers? I'm making good money. Why do I care? Like the numbers can do what they want. I was like, I'm good. Because in my mind, I know that a lot of people are doing it because like it's the way they figured out how to make the most money or capitalize on the most whatever. I figured out what I think are long-term, more sustainable and scalable things, and I'm not beholden to whatever YouTube decides to do one way or the other. It's why the adpocalypse didn't kill me or anything like that. A lot of friends of mine, they got hurt pretty badly when YouTube's ad boycott like popped off, and now other things are happening in the algorithm. It would be annoying, but there are a lot of things that could go wrong with my YouTube channel tomorrow, and my pivot move would be, oh, cool, I'll go to daily on my podcast. And then I'll grow my podcast to being a 6-figure brand by itself. I'll go hard on my podcast, and I'll double my public speaking on a year, and I would do that. And that would be, and then it'd be like the story of like how I did that and like rose like a phoenix from the ashes, and that'd be fine. I don't want it to go that route, but like it'd be fine. Like between you and me, next year when I decide to stop editing all my stuff and I outsource 80% of my editing, I probably will go 3 to 5 times a week on my podcast.
Roberto, you gave such great advice. Where can people find you?
So you can find me in all social media at Roberto Blake. You can check out the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Roberto Blake 2. That is the number 2. And you can also check out the Create Something Awesome Today podcast in iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever podcasts are available. And you can call into me on Anchor for my Anchor show.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all your tips. I feel like I'm going to have to pick your brain some more even after this. Everybody, you should go check Roberto out. Thank you so much.
Awesome. You guys go out there, create something awesome today.
Thank you for listening to Beyond Influential. If you found value in this week's episode, please rate and subscribe on iTunes. I'd love to know who you find influential. You can let me know on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Brittany Crystal, Krystle, or visit my website, brittanycrystal.com.